I wanted to pick up with this one again because I got a little bit rushed at the end on how I did this. So whenever you have a number inside your sine or cosine function, it's going to affect the period. Since I know the period is typically 2 pi, we'll always just divide by whatever that number is. So if that had been a 3, I would have divided by 3. So since it's a 2, when I divide by 2, I get that my period is pi, which means this entire graph should fit between 0 and pi. My amplitude is my number that's out front. There is no number there, so my amplitude is simply 1. So when I do my sine, remember that's the one that looks like the S, so it's going to start and end in the middle. This time the starting point 0, but the ending point is at pi instead of 2 pi. In the middle of those, you're in the middle. In the middle of the first two, you go up. In the middle of the last two, you go down. So I'm able to get this nice graph here. Now I would continue it, having another full cycle there. I'd be able to fit 2 cycles back here before I hit negative 2 pi. Looking at one that's just a little bit more complicated, you have lots of things happening. First off, this negative out front, instead of going up and then down, means that now you'll go down and then up. So it should look like that. If it was a cosine graph, instead of being like an upside down U, or sorry, a right side up U, it would just be upside down. It would just start at the bottom. So all the negative does is tell you to go to the bottom first. The 2 out front means my amplitude is 2. The 0.5 here is going to affect my period. So I'm going to take my normal period and divide by that number. 2 pi divided by a half is 4 pi. I am not going to fit a full cycle over here if this only goes up to 2 pi. And I do want you to fit at least one full period on each side of your graph. So instead of making this 2 pi, I'm just going to scratch it out and make that 4 pi. Which makes this one 3 pi, 2 pi, and just pi. So this is negative pi, negative 2 pi, negative 3 pi, and negative 4 pi. I've changed those. I have my period written down. My amplitude is 2, so I'm coming all the way up to the top this time. Again, sine function always starts and ends in the middle. In the middle of those, it's in the middle. Typically, between the first two, you'd go up, but it was a negative. So you're actually going to go down to the bottom. And then between the last two is when you'll go up. So I'm going to come down and then back up. Oops. And up and then back down. That's my first cycle. Then I would want to continue that, coming up to here. Then I'm back down at negative pi. I'm down at negative 2 over here. And then back up to 0. So there's my full graph. It doesn't look a whole lot different than the first one, but we changed the scale, so it really is quite different. It's been stretched out a little bit wider. Hopefully that helps with another couple of walkthroughs on those. Again, make sure cosines, you're making them look like C's. If they're negative, make them go down.